China recently released a new set of anti-monopoly guidelines with ominous applications to its tech giants. Alibaba's US-traded stock took a haircut, piling on top of all the recent drama surrounding the failed IPO of its Ant Group subsidiary. I did a video about that if you want to learn about it. But what about Tencent, the other Chinese mega giant? Tencent has stakes in some of the world's biggest video game companies. They also own the two biggest messaging apps in the world, QQ and WeChat. In this video, we're going to look at Tencent's anti-competitive actions. Considering what's been happening to Ant Group and Alibaba, is Tencent at risk of an anti-monopoly investigation as well? But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Patreon. For those who have not signed up to the early access tier, I want to call out that there are a few videos queued up and waiting to be released that you can watch right now. I'm going to try to keep the number to be around 5, but at this particular recording, I'm looking to have around 9. It will help support the channel and pay for all this coffee that I spend at cafes when writing the videos. So head on over to the Patreon page and take a look. I deeply appreciate anything you'd be able to sign up for. Thanks, and on with the show. The rules are in a draft phase, and so have not been implemented. However, their goal is to address abuses in the online market. Namely, they want to make sure that companies with a dominant market position are kept from abusing it. Such abuse is defined in multiple ways. The first notable definition of abuse has to do with the selling or buying of goods at prices that are unfairly low. That also includes selling goods at below cost, unless there's a justifiable reason for doing so. It also forbids modifying prices in real time using algorithms. This probably best applies to e-commerce companies. Another abuse is restricting or outright refusing to transact with certain counterparts without a justifiable reason for doing so. For example, making it such that if a company wants to do business with you, you force them from doing business with a competitor. Choose one out of two, so to say. This particular piece is big because Tencent and Alibaba do just that, but more later. Companies are also prevented from performing actions that would allow them to eliminate or restrict their competition. For example, trying to take over a competitor by purchasing all of their shares or by signing contracts that effectively do the same thing. These guidelines are now extended to be applicable to any company that does business in China. The anti-monopoly law enforcement agency, whatever it will be, is granted the power to undertake actions to ameliorate the abuse of market positions. And notably, for the first time, the anti-monopoly law is deemed to apply to variable interest entities as well. I previously did a video about this interesting quirk of Chinese law. It allows companies to establish shell companies in the Cayman Islands so to evade certain Chinese laws regulating share ownership of internet and tech companies. Again, these laws remain in draft format and can change at any time whatsoever, as is often the case in China. But the way they are written right now, they arm the party with the procedural tools to attack and disassemble the monopoly positions built up by Chinese tech giants like Alibaba, Tencent, and others. In Tencent's Q3 2020 earnings call in November 2020, company management downplayed the potential effect that the law would have on company revenues. Management seemed to have a two-pronged response to analysts. The first prong is to promote the company's support of open platforms. President Martin Lau said in regards to the new paper, "Fourthly, I would like to reflect on Tencent's business and strategy and philosophy. I would say it actually fits very well with the spirit of the regulatory framework. As you can see, our platforms are open in nature. We work with a lot of partners. We focus on providing great products and user value rather than very calculated business operations as well as monetization." Shortly thereafter, the company points to the nature of its business model as a reason not to worry. Nodding to the fact that the company's revenues are majority derived from games, Lau says, "I can't comment fully right now, but it looks like, right, from the paper that it's more related to transaction platforms. So for games which are essentially individual products rather than platforms, I think they are less of the focus." This is technically true. Tencent, when you look at it from a revenue basis, is a gaming company. Many gamers are very cognizant of this. But not mentioning WeChat as being a critical part of Tencent would be a grave error. WeChat, not its games, is the monopoly that Tencent controls. It's hard to do anything in China without WeChat. WeChat is your connection to any friend who lives behind the Great Firewall. It provides news, it helps you easily pay for things like fast food, taxis, traffic fines, and more. Previously, I have an email newsletter about WeChat's rise to power, but in it, I did not much mention Tencent's other messaging product, QQ. When the internet first came to China in 1996, the best way for people to message each other was using the texting protocol ICQ. ICQ let people open up private chats one-on-one or amongst groups. Ma Huadeng and his team at Tencent released an ICQ client in 1998 that appealed to local sentiments. This desktop messaging client joined a crowded field that includes Microsoft's MSN, but distinguished itself due to the use of value-added items like stickers and helpful features like the ability to stop and start file downloads. QQ moved from the desktop to the initial generation of pre-iPhone mobile phones. By partnering with mobile monopoly China Mobile, QQ achieved dominance in the mobile IM market. The tense relationship with China Mobile would continue for many years as the telecom resented being a dumb pipe for QQ services. In the Asianometry email newsletter about WeChat, I credited the mobile app's growth to its many innovative features. Yeah, sure, cute things like the message in the bottle capability definitely helped grow WeChat's market share, but looking back on it now, I think what mattered more was how Tencent ruthlessly brought its existing base of QQIM users over to WeChat. This cross-promotion and lock-in is a common tech monopoly tactic. Alibaba used its existing dominance in e-commerce to create an equally dominant position in payments with Alipay. Facebook turbocharged Instagram's rise with its own Facebook user base. The thing is that, depending on how you look on it, this particular piece of behavior is probably illegal to do per the newly released anti-monopoly guidelines. Not that the state is going to cut down WeChat anytime soon, but they certainly will arrest growth of future products Tencent might try to cross-pollinate in the future, like its games perhaps. If you feel like American tech companies abuse their monopoly power, then you're probably not ready for what the Chinese do to each other. WeChat is well known for its state-sponsored censorship, but they also have their own form of private censorship. If you compete with Tencent, or are even not allied with them, then it is highly likely that your links won't load on WeChat. For example, on February 2021, an app owned by tech giant ByteDance sued WeChat and Tencent for monopolistic behavior. ByteDance is one of the few large tech companies that came to prominence without allying with either of Alibaba or Tencent. They are a $150 billion tech company of their own. This 2021 lawsuit is because WeChat restricted links associated with the app from being shared on its messages. It comes on the back of a similar 2018 lawsuit regarding the same practice. That particular lawsuit seemed to have failed to make ground. Chinese users seem to be used to dealing with workarounds to these blocks. If you want to share a link to a Taobao item to a friend on WeChat, you cannot send them the actual link. You got to send them a search term so that they can go to Taobao and search for it themselves. The Taobao share message literally directs you to do this. It's wild. I talked a bit about the Great Firewall of China in a previous video and how it enables Chinese tech companies to perform these anti-competitive acts. What if Google prevented Gmail from sending emails with Amazon links in them? Or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp stopped delivering any links by Google? There would be an internet uprising. In 2011, an antivirus software maker named Qihoo360 sued Tencent before the Higher People's Court of the Guangdong province for anti-monopolistic practices. A year earlier, the two companies had gotten into a major spat. First, Tencent started bundling its own antivirus with QQ. Qihoo then announced that QQ was accessing people's data without permission and updated their antivirus software to block it. Tencent responded by making it so that QQ would not work on any computer with Qihoo installed. The Chinese Ministry of Industry and Information Technology had to get involved, undoing both actions and making the two companies apologize to the public. Now, Qihoo was suing Tencent for abusing its dominance in the IM market. The Guangdong court said that Qihoo did not submit sufficient evidence of Tencent owning a monopoly share in the IM market. The Supreme People's Court upheld the decision. The court cited the possibility that Chinese users can use foreign IM apps rather than WeChat as to why Tencent does not own a monopoly. For some reason, I find that amusing. 10 years later, I get the sense that the government has realized that things have changed since then. The 2018 lawsuit failed, but who knows about the 2021 one. The first government actions have largely been for irregular pricing abuses by e-commerce companies. If you recall, that was one of the big items listed in the new anti-monopoly guidelines. If we take the guidelines as a blueprint for the future actions that the Chinese government intends to undertake over the next years, then actions like those done by WeChat and have previously been considered common practice are likely to be addressed in due time. Alright everyone, take care of yourselves out there. It's a crazy world. If you like the videos from this channel, feel free to like and subscribe and check out the Patreon or the newsletter. Alright, take care of yourselves out there. See you soon.